Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Yvette Prez, and I am the Outreach Director at the Louisiana School for the Deaf, located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Tonight, we're going to have Dr. Meek presenting to us on dinner table syndrome. We want to remind everyone to please hold all the questions. Feel free to write them in the Q&A box. Dr. Meek will answer all the questions at the end of the presentation. So if a question pops up, please do not write it on the comment section in the chat. Just go ahead and write it in the Q&A, and he will be happy to write it answer him at that point in time. If there's any problems with technology, please send that directly to me in the chat, and I will try and resolve it to the best of my ability. For now, let's not waste any more time, and let's turn it over to Dr. Meek. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. Hello again, my name is Dr. David Meek, and I'm going to be presenting today about dinner table syndrome. I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my background and where I'm from. I grew up in Indiana. I went to a mainstream school, K through 12. I was with other deaf and hard of hearing students, and most of those students that I grew up with and the students in my community, we all went to one school where they had a deaf and hard of hearing program. I got my bachelor's and master's degree from Ball State University. My bachelor's is in deaf ed, and my master's is in special education, mild intervention supports. I taught for a total of 12 years, K through 12, in deaf ed and then in special ed. And eventually I got a job at Indiana School for the Deaf, where I used both my degrees together, my deaf ed degree and my special ed degree from Indiana. I got my doctorate degree from Lamar University in deaf studies and deaf education. Upon graduation, I moved to Rochester, New York, where I started working at NTID, and then I transitioned to visual assistance researcher for the DePace Center, the PACE Center, which stands for Sensory and Intellectual. Currently, I am visiting assistant in a master's field in secondary education at NTID, visiting assistant professor. Now you notice that it is Christmas time is approaching, and there's typically gatherings around the dinner table with friends and family, and it's a special experience that creates a lot of special memories. It's also a time where we share delicious food, laughter, stories, but often, unfortunately, for deaf and hard of hearing people, this experience can be a little different. Some feel left out or not understood. Some of us who have experienced sitting around the dinner table and not being able to hear anything that was going on Some watch their family or friends enjoy conversations with one another, while at the same time struggling to keep up, or worse, finding themselves not able to understand anything. Now, dinner table syndrome, I'm going to shorten it to DTS. So, dinner table syndrome almost always is unintentional. Families don't realize that they are excluding their deaf or hard of hearing family member from conversations. There's a wide range of deaf and hard of hearing individuals. There could be a mild hearing loss going to a profoundly deaf where someone can hear nothing. And there's different communication requirements for different settings and different groups of people. Dinner table syndrome in the deaf community can mean a wide variety of things for different people. You see, there's different artists that are deaf that have different perspectives of dinner table syndrome. Deaf and hard of hearing individuals are the ones that are impacted. For me, in my experience, in this kind of dinner table syndrome, I didn't realize what was happening until I got into my research and the meaning of dinner table syndrome. I do remember having conversations about DTS or dinner table syndrome in my classes, and it really impacted me and made me realize why I wanted to research and find out different perspectives from different deaf and hard of hearing people. Dinner table syndrome is really a metaphor. It's not always taking place at the dinner table. Now, it can be in a restaurant, in a classroom setting where other students are engaged in rapid paced dialogue and the deaf or hard of hearing individual is missing out on the conversation. It could take place within a gathering amongst friends or family members. It can happen in the car when a deaf or hard of hearing person is sitting in the back seat and having a hard time conversing with the person in the front or people in the front. That can happen anywhere, not literally at the dinner table. This is a short visual vernacular or VV video that is by a deaf artist, Zoe, and her brother, Thomas McWaney. This is a theatrical performance by deaf artists. The style of the storytelling that involves sign language along with mime and gestures and facial expressions to convey the story. And this is their creative expression of DTS. It's a short video. you can see that there's similarities within the deaf community, and that's all over the world. The deaf artists here are from the UK. So this is a topic that can be discussed all over the world. "90 to 95% of deaf and hard of hearing individuals have hearing families. Not all family members know sign language. Because of so many family members not learning sign language for deaf and hard of hearing children, they can experience loneliness, isolation, and feeling left out of family conversations, which fits the definition of DTS.
DTS can impact deaf and hard of hearing individuals. It can impact their health, for example, isolation. They feel removed and not involved in the social gathering because of communication barriers. Frustration, struggling to keep up with the conversation. It's very frustrating. Low self-esteem, just constantly feeling left out can contribute to low self-esteem. Anxiety, going to social gatherings in a situation like that where communication is difficult can cause high levels of anxiety. Depression, continually feeling isolated and dismissed can contribute to depression. Communication fatigue, struggling to understand or communicate can contribute to mental breakdown and depression. It's communication fatigue. And perhaps reduced social participation. Fear of dinner table syndrome can result in avoiding social events. You will see some of these pop up in comments made by individuals who are deaf and hard of hearing in my research. So this is what my research is on, DTS. And I wanted to study deaf and hard of hearing people's perspectives on their feelings, their opinions, and attitudes during family events. And specifically deaf individuals who are missing out on conversations. And I will share their perspectives looking back on dinner table situations, how often they were included in dinner table conversations. I had a total of 6 participants. 3 were from mainstream programs, and 3 had gone to schools for the deaf. Each identified their own communication mode, what they used in their home, as well as if their families had started to learn communication in either American Sign Language, ASL, or some sign communication system. For those who were mainstreamed, the families relied on sign-supported speech or signing with their deaf and hard of hearing children while they're speaking. Oliver speaks English with his family. The other participants used sign, for example, like Pigeon Signed English, abbreviated as PSE, and ASL with their families. The signs used for PSE are from ASL, but they are not used in the same grammatical patterns as ASL. It's more of an English order. Both Peyton and Luke, with their families, relied on SIMCOM, simultaneous communication, which means speaking and signing. They would sign and speak English at the same time. When they were with their family members, they would sign and speak. And so I'll share some of their comments. When they would get together at the dinner table with their families, some participants would mention how they wanted to escape. They didn't feel part of the conversation. Just to let you know, each of them has a little bubble where you can read what they said. Carmen said that she would eat really fast and then leave the table because she knew she wouldn't be included in the conversation with her family. So she would just eat and leave. Luke wanted to play with his phone, but if he didn't have his phone, he felt kind of stuck. He wasn't sure what to do. So he would sit there and watch the conversation. Some participants shared that if the conversation was perhaps about world news or news that involved other members of the family or friends during the discussion at the table, then the deaf or hard of hearing person would get some of the news in a later one-on-one encounter. So the question is, do you think Luke was getting all the information in that one-on-one experience? Probably not. The dinner table conversation, everyone's contributing all at the same time. It's all happening, it's overlapping, and Luke is missing things. And then later, maybe his mother would sit down with him and explain what was discussed at the table, but doesn't really expand on it. It's just a short abbreviation, a summary of whatever the topic was. A lot of deaf and hard of hearing people have heard or seen this said to them more than once in their lives. All of the participants said that they get that often, they hear that often, or they feel left out of conversations with their family at the dinner table. Some try to follow and keep up with it, but they miss some things. What's interesting is Ria is exposed to many cultural traditions from her Mexican side of the family. And she told me that family time in Mexico is really an important tradition, but she felt dismissed sometimes. If the deaf or hard of hearing try to follow the conversation and then they see everyone laughing, the deaf person might ask someone near them, like, what's so funny? And sometimes the person could be dismissive, or they might summarize it just using whatever few signs they know. For example, oh, grandma's so funny. Mm, that summary does not have the same impact. Often they're told, oh, it was nothing. Oh, or I'll tell you later. But that later never materializes. People often forget. Discussion between participants and family is sometimes brief. They knew that they were not expanding on the conversation and the questions by the hearing family members. And sometimes they would struggle to hear, to understand the conversation with all the background noise. So again, they sometimes struggle to hear and understand conversations. Oliver's, for example, say that someone on the other side of the table, Oliver is here and the other person is all the way over there, maybe asks about school or their major, and Oliver says, school's great. I'm majoring in business. The conversation is brief. Oliver doesn't really get into the topic. He's struggling to hear the other person on the other side of the table. It's tough to have a conversation that way. Now, during the holidays, Christmas, Peyton and Shelby shared that their parents tend to control the conversation.
Or try to pull them into conversation.
Thank you. Now, remember, this is only during the holidays. It's not other times. It seems more important during the holidays. Peyton is more involved in conversations and dialogue. Shelby had more hands-on activities that would keep the whole family in sync with their conversations, that was simultaneous with their conversations. For Rhea, it's interesting. Her mother knew ASL, but she felt that her mother did not understand deaf culture and understand her daughter was feeling left out of the game. Another impact related to dinner table syndrome that is similar for hearing people, that was the same for hearing people, was that feeling of dismissed. Like people can hear the conversations and understand everything, and they're not experiencing what's missed, and they're not understanding what the impact is. For this next topic, Luke avoided behavior that normal behavior for the with dinner table syndrome. He brought his girlfriend to his house for the first time to meet his parents.
Luke's girlfriend noticed that uh, his response to dinner table behavior was not what was called normal. The next few slides, I'm going to be talking about some ways where you can help prevent dinner table syndrome. Trying to find a round table would make it easier for the deaf or hard of hearing individual to be able to see clearly who is speaking. If there are a couple people in the house that know sign language, maybe have them sitting across from the deaf or hard of hearing individual where they can communicate easier. Find a place with good lighting where deaf or hard of hearing individuals can see everybody clearly in order to possibly read lips. With adequate lighting, it makes it easier. And avoid loud background noises if possible. Some deaf or hard of hearing people still rely on hearing, and it makes it more difficult when there is a lot of background noise or overlapping conversation. Learning sign language, like American Sign Language, or even using gestures or pointing at objects or people in order to help communicate with deaf or hard of hearing individuals directly. And not speaking with your mouth full or turning away while speaking. If the deaf or hard of hearing person cannot see you clearly, they can't read your lips or read your facial expressions. Include deaf or hard of hearing individuals when telling a story. Make sure that they understand the conversation. Again, if the deaf or hard of hearing person misses something, don't leave them out of the conversation by saying, "Oh, it's not important," or "I'll tell you later." Because typically later never happens. If they ask you, "Can you repeat that?" Go ahead and repeat it. Just a normal way of speaking. Don't over enunciate. Speak in a normal pattern with the same intonation. Use closed captioning for the TV so that everybody can watch. And play deaf, hard of hearing friendly games where everybody can participate. Games that have yelling out the answers might not be appropriate. For example, charades. A lot of people think charades is an inclusive game, but when everybody's yelling out the answers, it's very difficult to keep up. Good game could be like board games or games that is one person at a time, or something highly visual like drawing. That would be more of an appropriate game. Also, be sure to share those tips with people at the table or other family members or friends that maybe might not have those experiences in communicating with deaf or hard of hearing people. So making sure they understand that you need to get the attention of someone who is deaf or hard of hearing by tapping them on the shoulder or waving until they look at you. Make sure that you have eye contact with the deaf person or hard of hearing person before engaging in conversation. Family dinner time should be inclusive for everyone. Deaf and hard of hearing children raised in homes where communication is happening have greater opportunities for informal learning. Sign language doesn't have to be the only language in your home, but it should be one of many. To be able to participate within conversations no matter how the dialogue is taking place. Can add to an array of knowledge and information and improve skills of deaf and hard of hearing children, like problem solving, vocabulary, uh, leadership for all individuals. For families of deaf and hard of hearing children, be sure to keep in mind that the holidays, when gathering for the holidays at the dinner table, try to include your deaf or hard of hearing family member and friends of all ages in the conversations. It doesn't matter if it's a small conversation or a big conversation. Make sure to be inclusive and have everyone involved. So this topic captures my own life experience growing up in a hearing family and struggling with being able to access communication and language, struggling to have dialogue with the family, also in school, noticing problems with conversations and having a sense of belonging or exclusion. All of those frustrations and missed opportunities can lead to our realization of missing out. Our family life is very important and we cherish that, but at times we can feel very left out. Our hope is that we can be understood, our feelings and frustrations and anger, that our family can develop strategies in order to help reduce those feelings of isolation. We love our families. We want very much for them to understand that this is part of who we are. I wrote an article and published about the experiences of dinner table syndrome in the lives of deaf adults. And I've also included some of my own experiences. This is the article here. You can copy the link or you can use your phone to take a picture of the QR code. I feel like this presentation was a little short, but we do have time for questions or comments. I'm leaving this up on the screen for anyone who wants to take a picture of the QR code. Okay, the Q&A is open for anyone that wants to ask a question.
Okay. So I guess if we have no questions, thank you for a wonderful presentation. That was so amazing to hear how much families have to learn about this, just because it's something that a lot of families are just unaware of, that it's occurring every day, not only during the holidays, but just during everyday life. So thank you so much for taking your time to present. For all of those who are not able to present or be here today, we'll be having this uploaded on our YouTube video, our YouTube channel, which is if you go into YouTube and you search the Louisiana School for the Deaf, all our workshop series are available there for further viewing. And this will be one of the workshops that will be going into our collection. So thank you so much, Dr. Meek.
And thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate being able to present. It's an important topic to have a conversation with families about. It's not only happening, as you said, at holiday time. This is something that can happen at any time.
Yes.
And again, I want to emphasize that this topic with hearing families is not intentional. Families often are unaware of the impacts. I remember when I presented this at another conference and parents came up to me after and said, I really didn't even think that I did this. I never even wasn't aware of it. So I gave them some suggestions that were helpful to minimize dinner table syndrome. And again, families were just unaware.
I see that one of our attendees has their hand up. I'm gonna give them permission to speak so they could ask their question. Okay.
Hello, what?
Hi there. So this is Jennifer from Port Arthur, Texas. And I have unintentionally done the same thing with my deaf relatives. And I've tried getting other family members on board with, well, a lot of them don't know sign language. Only my daughter knows a little bit, and some of the others pick up a little bit here and there. But how do you have any recommendations on getting other family members on board with not leaving out our deaf family members?
How not to leave them out, you mean?
Like, yeah, to get my hearing family. I mean, and I know I can't control other people. Maybe I can only focus on myself. But yeah, I want to get my other family involved too, but they don't. So even when I try to SimCom, they still just talk. They don't try. And I can't force them to, but any recommendations?
Yeah, one thing.
Yes.
I know who this is, yes, and I know it's difficult to try to interpret everything. I know you know that, Jennifer.
Yes.
Also, maybe remind all family members, if possible, try not to overlap conversations, because that typically happens with hearing people. They tend to talk over each other, and those conversations overlap a lot. That is
Yes.
one thing that I try to remind people not to do that. Speak one at a time, deaf family members, so that they can try to catch what is being said. Because if conversations are overlapping, it makes it very difficult to try to keep up with all that. Now, I have had a difficult time with my family. My family typically overlaps in their speaking, and I'm trying to say, "Wait, what?" And conversation has moved on, and it's difficult. So I just go, "Okay, just go with it." But sometimes I do want to know everything that's going on. So sometimes I will stop and say, "Wait, what are you saying? Okay, now I'm caught up. Go ahead." So I know that's very difficult to do.
It is. It makes me feel ugh, I don't I, I'm signing it. I can't think of a word. Just it's awful. Yes, very difficult. Thank you.
Good to see your name.
We have another question here from Miss Christine Hamilton.
Oh, yay. Hi. I'm deaf myself, and I grew up in a hearing family, and I was the only deaf one. Um, I experienced DTS my entire life. It still goes on, and I have three hearing sons, um, and they're all in their 20s. And often during family get-togethers, dinner at night, and they're talking, and I feel left out most of the time. Yeah. My oldest, one day he actually noticed that I was just eating by myself. Um, and that's when he decided to intervene with my parents and said, look at my mom, look at my mom, look at her, include her, please. And my mom was like, oh my goodness, uh, just it really impacted me because I didn't say anything. He just recognized it himself. He said, please include my mom. Don't leave her out. And my son is hearing. And that really got me, that really impacted me, that he noticed my frustrations, even if my parents didn't. And so my parents then realized, oh, did it help though? No. I mean, my parents still do the same thing. It doesn't change their behavior. It didn't work. My son tried to explain, you're leaving her out. Um, she doesn't know what you're talking about, what's happening. And he felt like he had to remind them all the time. I wish my parents had done that. I don't want my kids to interpret. I want my parents to talk to me directly instead of going through my kids. It's really frustrating for me as a deaf parent, with my parents and my kids being hearing. It's not easy. I mean, with the holidays coming up, I think about the get together with the family and what it's so often feeling left out without being included in the conversation. And I know that's every time. Yeah, I can understand that. That's really difficult because you don't want your son to have to interpret for you the entire time. You want direct communication. Yes, I do. I do. One time, I don't want to share too much, but the most recent situation that happened that I faced, my father passed away in September, and after the funeral, we went to a restaurant just for a get together, and I was left out again. My sister was right there by me. My son was sitting somewhere else, but my sister was by me, and they were all talking, and I wanted so much to just get up and speak up, but it was a very delicate time for us with the funeral and everything. And so I just sat there quietly just the entire time, and I had no idea what was going on. It's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation for someone to go through. And I know some people have developed apps. There's some new apps they have that record voices, and you can set that up on their phones. But I'm not sure that you really want, lots of people don't want new apps on their phones. And even though there are different apps as well, Do I think that would resolve the issue? Would that be a cure for the problem? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, but I see some things trying to help with that, trying to address that, but at the same time, it's not the same as direct communication. Yes, you want that direct communication. You're right. You're right. And sometimes I'll recommend, I could hire an interpreter to come join us. And my mom says, no, but I would have access to communication. I need that, but I get denied. I've tried some different approaches, but nothing. It's hard. It is tough. And I don't know what a good solution would be. Maybe something will come up later. But, it's been a long time. I mean, like 10 years or more. Yeah, you just have to be hopeful. I mean, just keep persevering, educating people, reminding people, making them aware. Right, right. Yeah. Some say, how would you feel if you were in my shoes? If we were all signing and you were missing things because you were the only hearing person who didn't sign. But the point is, how often does that happen? It's difficult. I remember when I was younger, I had friends come over. It was like five of us, and we're all getting into it and laughing. And my mom came over and she's like, "What's so funny?" We were like, "Nothing." And she said, "You were laughing. What's going on?" We told her nothing. Said, "Now you understand how I feel." My mom was taken aback. So, I mean, just try to, yeah, I'll tell you later. I'll tell you later. But, she wanted to know what was going on. It's like the same thing that she does to me. She said, but it's different. I didn't see what the difference was. She just didn't get it. She doesn't get it. Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments. Yes, yes, thank you. Oh, I have many stories to share. I'll have to catch you and include you in my research. Yes, I'd be happy to help out. Okay, so we need to wrap up.
So thank you again, Dr. Meek. I appreciate you coming and presenting for us. For those who would like to go and see the presentation again, our presentation will be available on our YouTube channel. Feel free to go in to see Dr. Meek and all our other amazing presenters that we've had along the way. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season coming up. And I hope that more families start signing and they're giving access to all of you. This is ultimately why we're all here. We all want access, equal access all the way. So thank you again. And with that, I'm gonna shut off the recording.
Yes, and thank you again so much. And also remember, it's really the important word is inclusion. And make sure that deaf and hard of hearing people are involved in everything that you do. That's so true. Thank you so much. Thank you, David.